Right, hello Year 9, here I am coming to you remotely again. What you'll need today is you'll need your pen, paper, or to be typing if you can multitask with the video on as well, and be ready just to answer the questions, complete the tasks, and then submit that and show my homework later. You can start off by writing down the title, which is on the screen there, Black Lives Matter Protests, and the date for today as well, please. And those two things. Now you will want to watch this video and pause this video as we go through today's lesson. I'm going to be doing what I've done in the past, which is explaining the bits and pieces, giving you a little bit of extra on top of just looking at the slides. So I hope you find this useful, but again, be ready to pause when I tell you to pause. Right, let's move on then with the lesson. And firstly, it's a bit of a prediction task using the Viper's Cave skills. Prediction. What do you think all of these people have got in common, and why might there be statues of them? So let me show you them. There they are. You don't necessarily know who they are. You probably will recognise a couple of names on the plinths. But what do you think all of these people have in common? And my question there really is asking you, so why might there be statues of them? What do you think they have done? And you could find a way of talking about that generally. But I'm going to go quiet for 5 seconds to allow you to pause the video and have a go at that task, please. Okay, then let's move on then. So that's starting to get you going because the next couple of lessons deal with the idea of statues, particularly in light of something which happened, which was quite big, and it is leading from this. So this is a picture of George Floyd. Some of you may have recognised that and him already. So in my blue box there, task 2, it's 5 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the text which is on the screen there, and then basically I would like you afterwards to pause that and then bullet point down 3 things that summarise this story. Essentially, put into your own words what happened. So here we go, pay attention. The US, so the United States, has been convulsed by nationwide protests over the death of an African American man in police custody. George Floyd, 46, died after being arrested by police outside a shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Footage of the arrest on the 25th of May shows a white police officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck while he was pinned to the floor. Mr. Chauvin, 44, has since been charged with murder. The key events that led to Mr. Floyd's death happened within just 30 minutes. Based on accounts from witnesses, video footage and official statements, here's what we know so far, and I chose to end it there. Now what I'd like to do is basically summarise down what you've just read there into 3 bullet points. If you want any further information, there is a link there which will be available on Show My Homework. You can click on that link and it will take you to a news story from the BBC. So I'm going to go quiet for 5 seconds again, summarise that story on the screen there please. Okay, that's task 2. Please remember to write task 1 above the first task, which was the statues, task 2 above what you've just done there, or next to it for me. And then just as a quick recap and an overview then, whilst I'm sure almost all of you are at least familiar with the idea of the Black Lives Matter protests, and that's why we're studying it, by the way, because it links to the idea of protest poetry. This was events which actually happened within the last year, really, and it spurned a lot of protests. So it was an event from the United States, but it really brought to people's minds just the imbalance, the unfair, the inequality of the treatment sometimes in some places of people of a different racial background than white people. And the top left there you see a massive protest going on outside the Houses of Parliament. That would be Big Ben behind the scaffolding there to give you thousands and thousands of people turned up. Largely peaceful protests, however, like the top right there, however, some violence did occur during that one as well, which is the picture in the bottom left. And then the bottom right is an interesting one. It's something we're going to look at in more detail, but that is a protester kneeling on the neck of a statue that has been torn down. That was actually taking place in Bristol. Some of you might even remember seeing that, but we're going to go over that more shortly. So yeah, just setting the context for you really, that this is protest poetry we're looking at here. So task 3 then, I'd like you to explain your thoughts. In a moment I'm going to reveal a statement on the screen, and I want you to pause the video and take 5 minutes to explain what you think in response to this statement. And here it is. All protests must be peaceful. So think about that. All protests must be peaceful. Now, there's going to be arguments for and against here, and I'll give you some thoughts. Just draw your attention to the bottom of the screen there while I put some sentence starters which might help you get going. And with this, as it's 5 minutes, it's not just write down one sentence, one thought. I'm looking for you to find me maybe a bit of a balance. You could say, No, all protests absolutely should be peaceful, I suppose, because violence should never occur. Violence doesn't solve the issue. Violence can only distract from it. However, sometimes when people aren't being listened to, perhaps violence is the only way to draw attention to a really important issue that's been ignored. That sort of thing is what I'm looking for from you. And if you can include any examples, that'll be even better. So I'll go quiet again, 5 minutes, pause the video, have a go at that, please. Okay, and we move ourselves along. Now, what we're going to do here is you will need to read this article. I've taken a screenshot of it there. This is from the BBC website, and it says, Edward Colston statue, protesters tear down slave trader monument. Now, I showed you the photo a short time ago, with the protester kneeling on the neck of the statue. That's this statue. And it was a statue of Edward Colston in Bristol, but I won't say any more. Before you're able to do the next task, you will need to read that article. This is probably where it won't work on the YouTube link on the screen there. You'll have to go to show my homework and click on that article and read through it. Now that's going to take about 10 minutes, I imagine, but however long it takes you, pause this video when I go quiet in a moment, carefully read that article and then keep it up because you'll need it for the next activity. Okay, so pause now. Okay, so what we have as your final activity for today then, Year 9, is having a go at these I'm meant to say Viper's Cave questions. So I'll read through them quickly and maybe just give you a few clues and hints as I go through, and then it's over to you to pause the video and write down your thoughts. So number 1 is a retrieval question. Which city was the statue in? 2, who was the statue of? They shouldn't take you long at all. 3, summarising it into 2 sentences. So I've put a couple of hints there on the screen for you. 4, vocabulary. Can you write down the definitions of those words, please, which are dispersal, skirmish, thug, and predominantly? And it doesn't mean just guess at the definitions. Quickly look them up and make sure you get them correct, please. 5, infer. Why do you think some of the protesters wanted to destroy the statue? Why might that have been? Why were they not happy in just letting it be taken down by somebody else at some other time? Why did they want to get rid of it? 6, trying to empathise then. When you heard about George Floyd's death and all of those horrible things surrounding it, how did you feel? And 7, explaining then, do you feel protesters were right to gather despite the social distancing rules to make their point about Black Lives Matter? So this all took place a year ago, and at that time we were still in our first lockdown, and despite that you saw the protesters and you saw what happened with the Edward Colston statue. So what do you think? Now, I'm pretty certain that's my last slide. Yes, it is. So it's over to you then. You can turn this video off now, but it's going to take you about 15 minutes. Make sure you work your way fully through those questions because that is the main activity today. And then upload that to show my homework. And then the next lesson will follow on from this and build on the ideas that you've heard here with the unseen poem. So more of that to come. In the meantime, thanks for listening all the way through Year 9 and take care.